Party senators there outlining their opposition to the carbon tax. The Greens are just stepping up. The Greens leader Bob Brown, you can see there, and
well, ladies and
Christine
gentlemen,
Milne.
from the grim to the grinning, we're very happy to, as representatives of the Australian people in this great parliament, that this historic legislation has passed the parliament and will now become law of this great country, in the service of not just the people of Australia, but the people of the planet. And not just the people of the planet, but the living ecosystem upon which we all depend. We have today seen an enormous act of responsibility by the Gillard government, the Greens and the independents in the lower house. It's a green letter day, but it's one that will echo down the ages. There is quite a bit of fury from the opposition and not a little bad behaviour in the Senate. That's up to them to come to terms with. But the great debate here on this legislation is over. There will be no rescission of this legislation. Even the heavens are clapping to join that wonderful gallery in there today, and people right around this country. There's a celebration going on in this nation today, and that's how it should be. So again, congratulations all around, but I want to add a special word of congratulations to our Deputy Leader, Christine Milne, for the work she's done right the way through. The most accomplished member of this parliament, I think, on this issue. And she'll go to Durban now carrying the message from this country that the world doesn't have to accede to implosion, to climate change, to enormous and irresolvable problems down the line. Action now is responsible. Maggie Thatcher called for action 20 years ago. Christine Milne and this team and Julia Gillard and her team have taken that action with an opposition that's been found wanting. So we're very happy, and we look forward to now seeing this legislation implemented and the great outcomes for Australia which will follow.
Thank you, Kat. Today, Australia changed direction. There's a psychological shift that comes with the passage of this legislation and its implementation, and that is Australia has turned its back on the fossil fuel past and will now move to a renewable energy powered future. I want to thank all of those people in the community right around Australia who voted for genuine climate action at the last election. We have climate action groups from one end of the country to the other who've been doing things in their own communities, who've been campaigning. There are all the conservation groups, there are the 100% renewables, beyond zero emissions. We've had Get Up, we've had a whole lot of environment groups and communities out there actively campaigning because they know we are facing accelerating climate change. They see the impacts on our ecosystems. They watch their televisions and see the record ice melt in the Arctic. They worry about increasing loss of glacial ice around the world. And today there will be a ripple of excitement from communities right around the country who think at last we have the foundation. We need to build on this. It doesn't go far enough, but it puts in place a fantastic platform on which we can now campaign for even more excitement, more innovation, and it really places Australia in a good position in the global environment to start contributing to a renewed momentum towards those global talks and a global agreement in the longer term. So it's an exciting day for Australia, but particularly an exciting day for everybody who voted for strong climate action.
Thank you all.
The former ETS that you knocked back, how much better is this package? Was it worth the trouble and the division?
Well, it's absolutely worth the trouble. I mean, the 2 years that have passed have been worth all the effort that's gone into it. I'll ask Christine to just say a few words on that, but the answer to that is yes. This is manifestly better legislation.
Absolutely better. The first thing we've got is an increase in the target of 80% reduction by 2050 and an independent climate authority that will determine the budgets and the trajectory to get there. That is a critically important change, whereas the old legislation put a cap, put a ceiling on the level of ambition. This opens it up and says we need it to be science-based. Furthermore, this legislation has a massive injection of funds into renewable energy with the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. We've got the Australian Renewable Energy Agency and a magnificent biodiversity fund to go with the carbon farming initiative. So it's a whole-of-government approach. It's internally consistent. It's jobs-rich. It's opportunity-bound. It is a very exciting day.
Senator Milne, Penny Wong called this a Labor package and a Labor policy. Was that an unfair assessment of the bills that just passed?
Oh, look, I think everybody around Australia knows that this has been delivered because we have a power-sharing parliament. The Greens went into the last election with a very strong proposition to act on climate change. When no one party won a majority, we had it in our agreement with Prime Minister Gillard that we would deliver a carbon price mechanism in this period of government. But to the Prime Minister's credit and to Minister Combay's credit, having signed that agreement in order to get confidence in supply, they have worked hard to deliver on it. And collectively, what we have done on the progressive side of politics is put Australia on track to address accelerating climate change. It's a nation-building moment, and I think everybody can share in that.
Is it going to be worth it, though, if Tony Abbott's in the Lodge in 2 years' time?
Oh, look, Tony Abbott in the Lodge in 2 years' time is like me being in Buckingham Palace in 1 year's time. Dream on. Maybe he's headed to Buckingham Palace now. I know he's over there somewhere. But he's got his work cut out. And there's one thing more important than who's in which seat in this parliament. It's whether this planet and this nation is a happier, more secure, a more environmentally enlivened place 50 years or 500 years now through our actions. And through our actions, we've moved in that direction in this parliament today. That's what's important.
Are you confident that farmers and people on the land are going to get a better deal out of this legislation than what they've currently got?
Yeah, and they will. And one of the reasons the Greens stocks have been growing very rapidly in the bush is our strong action to curb climate change. The great drought of the last decade turned people in the bush know about it. They know the climate is changing, and they want people who are going to give them action. They look to the National Party and find them inactive, in fact counteractive. They look to the Liberal Party and find the same. So more and more people in the bush are voting Green instead.
Well, can you confidently make claims honestly in the Senate that this package of bills won't be repealed if an opposition government gets in?
Well, yeah, go, Christine.
Well, it's just quite obvious that the coalition won't repeal the bills. They spent hours filibustering the carbon farming initiative and then declared they wouldn't repeal them. They spent hours condemning the Greens, suggesting we were holding the government to ransom over the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, and then they said not only will they not vote against it, but they won't repeal it. We've now got Tony Abbott, who's rushed off to England. He didn't have to go. He could have flown out tonight, but he's abandoned the case. The fact of the matter is business is about to round on the coalition. Business needs certainty. That is the absolute key thing they need, particularly in the electricity sector, and they are now satisfied they've got certainty, and the last thing they want is Tony Abbott ripping that out from underneath them. So we are confident that the great big new lie of Australian politics is that Tony Abbott, A, will get to the Lodge, and B, that he will repeal the bills.
The one thing about him is he is in London at a Conservatives convention, and he's certain to run into Mr Cameron there. And Mr Cameron backs this legislation. So it's quite possible that earlier than 2 years from now, we might even see Tony Abbott coming back from London a convert to this legislation. You know, I'm being optimistic, but
How do you feel this will affect mainstream Australia's attitude towards your party? Are you concerned about any possible backlash here?
No, quite the converse. We've stood up for climate change legislation and we've delivered.
Yeah.
And mainstream Australia is going to, and people like politicians who do what they say, mainstream Australia is going to deliver on this. So is going to be happy about it. I got that this morning, went to the cafe, people clapping as we went into the car. Out on the street, people yelling out, "Great day for climate change." People like it. They're happy about it. There's a few exceptions, but we better get out of this downfall, eh?
Thank you.
So while a thunderstorm rolls over Canberra, Greens MPs there led by Bob Brown and climate change spokeswoman Christine Milne declaring it a green letter day. The carbon tax legislation has passed through the Senate just in the last half hour or so. Christine Milne is saying Australia is undergoing a psychological shift today with green industries in for massive assistance packages. Earlier we heard from National Party MPs. The continuing argument from opposition MPs is they're saying Labor lied before the last election and got into office on the basis of that, saying that there would be no carbon tax under a Labor government. Independent MP Tony Windsor was coming in for particular criticism there too from the Nationals. Now, we're expecting that there will be a string of other media conferences over the next hour or so with politicians wanting to have their say on this significant day in Canberra, and so we'll continue bringing you those media conferences as they come through.